Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, this is Kenyan Revolutionary for another session. Very quick one, very quick one. We just want to see what's going on up here. We see a lot of things happening with Ivory Coast. So we're wondering if Kenya is next. Kenya is next on the list. Let's review. I have an interesting video to play for you. I won't talk much, but anyway, the first order of business is to do what? Like the video. And if this is your first time, this channel is all about Kenyan politics and world news that relates to Kenyan politics. So get in, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So let's get to it. Let's look at this video. Anyway, by now, ladies and gentlemen, I think it has been established that Ouattara, the president of Ivory Coast, fled Ivory Coast back to France to his puppet master because there was a coup d'etat and the people flooded the streets. I don't know if it was a military coup d'etat or was it a popular revolution. That still we don't know, but we saw some soldiers were out there where, you know. So I think it was a combination of two. People were happy that Ouattara had to go because Ouattara was, remember, a few weeks ago, him along with Tinubu and some presidents from West Africa went and met the French president, Macron, that imbecile. But anyway, that's besides the point. That it is now confirmed that the president of Ivory Coast have been overthrown. He's no longer the president. He has fled and he's in Ivory Coast. Now, a lot of people are asking, is Kenya next? Now, I told you in my previous video in the morning why this Ouattara was taken out and who might be involved in that. Okay, but I'm telling you, what unapata this courage? I told you, what's his name? Ibrahim Traore said that he will he will help liberate other African nations from the colonial, mikono ya unaona ile mkono ya octopus inaitwaje from colonial power. Okay, he will help. He'll not just work on Burkina Faso, but he will help also, liberate other countries. Now we saw, I don't know if Burkina Faso was involved in between the Sahel nations. I don't know which one wagani ndio walienda first, because at the same time it was Mali. Was it Mali, Burkina Faso, and what's the other? Niger, who actually had their coup d'etat around the same time. So now, like I explained in my first video, Ivory Coast ilikuwa the only country. Remember, even before that, because even before then, Burkina Faso was being targeted by the West, the French and the Americans. They were looking for every way to penetrate through the Burkina Faso, because Burkina Faso is landlocked. Okay, they're not by the sea, so they needed a country. They needed a nearby country that is by the ocean, where they can bring their ship and the heavy artillery, ship them in, and move through and deal with Burkina Faso. And that came of all of these nations. Ouattara, the then president of Ivory Coast, they went and met up in France somewhere, Paris. There was a Paris summit which was held, and they sat there and they discussed. And Ouattara was like, you know what, Ivory Coast will be more than happy to receive boots on the ground, French forces, American forces, heavy artillery. Leteni hizo vitu zote. Move nani? You want to remove Ibrahim Traore? I will help you. Nipatie Trudeau as a typical, puppet master. He agreed upon this. Anyway, so the British, it was reported some months ago, British ships were docking at Ivory Coast with heavy artillery, tanks, and all this stuff. Okay, American forces or special forces were also reported, making their way through Ivory Coast, because the idea is these guys were going to help the so-called terrorists. Okay, those terrorist forces in Burkina Faso, who Ibrahim Traore has been fighting since he came to power, who have been funded by the French to give them a reason to stay in Burkina Faso by claiming that, we are here to stabilize Burkina Faso. Remember what they said? Africa does not need to the Africa's security. Africans cannot depend on foreign security forces to actually guarantee them security. They have to have their own security forces to secure their own borders. Okay, so the French were actually giving money to the terrorist groups in Burkina Faso and the ones who are committing all these atrocities. Now, vile nani aliingia when Burkina Faso got in and Nani Ibrahim Traore, took over power, he got into agreement with Russia and Russia's special forces to help him out to weed out these terrorists, because of course Burkina Faso at the time that Traore took power, Burkina Faso was not well equipped to take on the advanced military artillery that the French and the Americans had. So he had to turn to Russians who are also just as equipped as the Americans and the French, plus the Russian forces to help him in this, undertaking this whole thing. So that's exactly what happened. So anyway, Burkina Faso, they're still working on their security, But anyway, you heard what the general of the U.S., Michael Langley, the AFRICOM general, who said that, started trying to paint Ibrahim Traore as the bad guy. And we all know, everybody, the world by now just know what propaganda is. So Africans were like, no. You attack Burkina Faso and we're going to have some problems, sir. Okay. And anyway, so they continued. So this is where Ouattara comes in. That's when they started, Ouattara gave them the okay, and they started bringing all these troops and special forces and whatever the case is, all this equipment through Ivory Coast. So just before the Americans, while they're still preparing to, prepare for the next onslaught on Ibrahim Traore, all of a sudden, it just happens that there's a coup d'etat. Now, this coup d'etat complicates things for the French and the Americans, the West, because as of right now, I don't know who is in charge. I don't know if the military are in charge, or it's a military, or is it a civilian coup? I don't know. I do not know. I don't have the information. But as we wait and hear more, we shall know more. Thank you so much, Brother Benson. I see you. Karibu sana. It's a pleasure seeing you. Siku mingi sana. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. So nice seeing you, brother. But anyway, so this is what happened. So, like I said, the coup d'etat has complicated things for Mr. Ouattara, not Ouattara, for the West, the Americans, and the French. Because now, good. So now, these guys, they might not be legally in Ivory Coast, because what if the new head of Ivory Coast, now that Ouattara has fled and went to France, okay? What if the new leader of Ivory Coast, or at least the perceived one, comes in and says, hey, listen, guys, you guys need to leave because we don't want you here. They will be left with no choice but have to leave. And if they don't leave, maybe the security forces of the Ivory Coast, the army of the Ivory Coast, who are under whoever is going to be the leader, might turn on the French. And if they turn on the French, you don't know what kind of ally are they going to, turn to help them fight the Americans and the French to leave. If they turn on the Traore and the Russians, of course, the French will have a very hard time and they will have to be forced to leave. That's why I'm saying this complicates things for the Ivory Coast. Now, I know you're asking, what has this have to do with Kenya? Listen, Kenya, we've been speaking about revolution, okay? Since June 25th last year, everybody, the Gen Zs have been talking about revolution. Even though in the Kenyan context, it is the people, the Gen Zs were talking about the people having a popular revolution like we saw in Bangladesh. In Kenya, we've never really, of course, after the events in 1982 with Ochoka and all that stuff, Kenyans have been really reluctant. Not reluctant, let me not say like reluctant. The regimes that came over, like the administration that took over from Moi to, because Moi was 1982, Moi to Kibaki to Uhuru to now Ruto, they've always tried to make sure that they have their own military personnel who are, reading the same, they're reading from the same script. Yeah? They're not leaving anything to chance. But you never know. Anything can change because remember, Ibrahim Traore was not a top general in the army at the time that he actually did this. He was actually he was not there, but apparently he had some influence in the army, okay? But he wasn't like a huge general, but he managed to actually have a successful coup d'etat. So you never know. Jacinta Teresa, I see you, nice seeing you. Please, guys, do not hesitate to hit that like button. If you guys are watching on X, move over to YouTube. Check me out on YouTube. I'm Kenyan Revolutionary. Come in and like. And if you want to get to the studio, I'll drop a link and you can join me on this discussion and we can exchange or ping pong ideas. If you have something you want to say about the Kenyan situation or the Burkina Faso problem or what's happening in Ouattara fleeing the scene, you can join me and tell me more about it. But anyway, back to the script. So now the question is, because this channel is all about Kenyan news and the world news as it relates to Kenya. So how does Ouattara's escape, Ouattara's being toppled, how does that affect Kenya? Because Kenya is a very volatile, politically speaking, volatile country. Especially after Ruto's tenure, during Ruto's tenure, we've seen a couple of mandamanos. He was almost toppled. You remember, Raila came out and told us that, hey, listen, if I didn't step in here, the military were basically going to take out Ruto. I don't know if Kahariri had some ideas. We don't know. But the idea now, listen, this is why Americans want to get rid of Ibrahim Traore so bad, because every African country are having this idea. They're saying, you know what? This is the way to go. Since we cannot have a democratically elected president, because every country, I can guarantee you 90% of the African elections are rigged. I don't have to tell you that. I don't have to remind you that. You probably know this by now. Come on. Listen. So if this democratic process is already flawed by the fact that the democratic process is subverted, what other choice do we have? I personally still advocate for a popular revolutionary movement. When I say popular revolutionary movement, I mean a peaceful protest like the one we saw in Bangladesh, like the one we saw in Sudan when Bashir was taken out. Those are the kind that I would like. Listen, either way, coups, coup d'etats are never peaceful. Let's just get that clear. So even if you choose to use popular, peaceful way of trying to take out Ruto, it's not going to be peaceful. By that, I mean this. I'm not saying that the civilians are not going to be peaceful. The civilians were peaceful. We saw that with Gen Zs. They were out there with a bunch of, a bottle of water, handkerchiefs, and no weapons. But the state will unleash horror, terror on the people. And of course, they'll try to justify that by saying these guys are, they're disorderly, they are causing chaos. They will even make up stuff and say that they're destroying shops. And because, of course, there are people who are hired. Like, you remember Sakaja hired some people in Nairobi to go, vandalize some shops and stuff like that. And it was blamed on the Gen Zs. Remember, Gen Zs were saying that they are peaceful, even when the police were, brutalizing them. They're saying, we are peaceful. This is not about, violent confrontation. But still, they were being brutalized by the state. The state, like I say, power is never the transition of power. Majority of if you have a dictatorship, transition from a dictatorial power or dictatorial rule is never a peaceful exercise. Okay, we would like to have a transition of power that is peaceful. If the people, ideally, we would think, if the people were to go to the streets and demonstrate like the Gen Zs did, and Ruto is toppled, Ruto is not going to get on his chopper and fly to Sugoi or fly to, whatever, France or whichever way, Italy or Uganda, whatever the case is. He's not going to do, that's not his first thing. Of course, he will try to escape. Number one thing, if we go and occupy State House Nairobi, his number one instinct will be to go to Sugoi, sit there and send the most deadliest police forces that he can gather to brutalize people, to see if people are going to break down or be intimidated. Now, if that fails, he'll probably choose his most trusted lieutenants in the military to come out and try to intimidate by killing, shooting. Like, that's the whole point of that BBC Blood Parliament is all about. It was all about showing Kenyans that, hey, listen, it was just not the police forces that you've been blaming all this time. Members of the military were also part of this mess. So if you're going to go to the next Maandamano, as I hear some of you are saying on X, I'm just saying this is what Ruto is thinking, and whoever he was making that blood parliament, just consider this. The military shall be on the streets, and they're not going to be on your side. They are going to shoot you, which is a false narrative, because I say this. There's a disconnect between what we were shown in blood parliament. Okay, it was true that some members of the military were involved in killing wananchi, but the majority of the military members of the military were actually with the people. We saw that on television. We had a bunch of news where when the military was sent, I think it was Pipeline Estate, whatever the case is, where when the police were shooting at Gen Zs, the members of the military went and told the police to stand down, do not shoot unarmed people, civilians. And they even escorted to ensure some people, some wananchi's safety back to their neighborhoods. Now, the atrocities happened at night. That's why, in my view, in my argument, I say this. It was a faction of a handpicked, specialized forces that are close to Ruto or the state, head of state or security apparatus, that were used to unleash terror on the people. And this BBC thing, okay, is designed to tell us, because even up to before BBC documentary Blood Parliament, majority of Kenyans have this feeling that the military are always friendly to the people. Yeah, Leo nimesimama. Deep Navy, nice seeing you, brother. Like the video. If you want to join in, like I say, guys, if you want to join in the studio and have a discussion with me, I will throw you the link. You can get it. Leo nimesimama because this is serious. Kwatara mehepa. That's why I have to stand. You can't sit on this. I just listen, ladies and gentlemen. I strongly feel something is happening in Africa. I think this is the next wave of liberation, an economic liberation of Africa. Listen, colonialism is all about economy anyway, so let me just fix that, okay? Colonization is all about economy. It is about controlling your resources. The difference is, pre-1963, the colonialists were doing it directly using their own forces, police force and all that force. Then they've hired forces by, ambao walikuwa na train hapa Afrika, ambao wana train, and then, it was being done like that, okay? Now, then they gave us a fake independence and put their puppets in place. Jomo Kenyatta, Moi, and go down the list, okay? All of them have been puppets, okay? And the fake opposition thereof, the Raila Odingas, Martha Karuas, and all these idiots. Now, listen to me. So the first phase was a direct colonialism, where they actually forced it. It was kind of, you can draw parallels with slavery, but let me just use colonialism as far. So they kind of came to your country, they came with their soldiers. They trained a couple of soldiers, your own from the indigenous people, to protect their interest. While they took up your land, bring on their laws and told you how to behave, basically. And if you were out of line, they will kill you. Just like the Mau Mau when they stood up. Mau Mau movement was all about fighting for the land that was taken by the British. That is what's going on. Something very interesting that's happening in South Africa about the expropriation bill that, all these white South Africans are complaining about. That's why they are being shipped to America. But that's another story for another day. Let's stick to Kenya, shall we? Thank you. I'm coming to Kenya. But anyway, so like I say, the first phase of colonialism was a direct, where the colonialists were there, they had the administrators and they were telling you what to do, whatever. The second one was indirect, by using people who look like you, speak your language, but they're not with you. That's why they gave you a prime minister, they gave you a president, they gave you a constitution, parliament that basically brought in their agenda in that. Every law that was made there. I mean, there was laws that, listen, anyway, let me not get into that. So what I'm saying is this: these presidents, these parliamentarians, these politicians that you see, they're basically doing the bidding for the colonial masters. Okay? So we were fooled. We thought we had independence. And we were like, yeah, Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu, but there was no independence, okay? So it took us a while. We tried to change it. We tried to actually, change that system. Not change the system. We tried to use that colonial system to our advantage, okay? What do I mean by this? We were hoping that if we have the right people who have our interests at heart, occupy these positions of power under this system, we thought that they will make change. And it was a good idea. It's not a bad idea. If we had a president who actually cared about Kenya, prime minister who cared about Kenya, parliamentarians who care about Kenya, governors who care about the people, MCAs who work in the interest of the people, we would have a decent country, Kenya. But we don't. Why? Because all these people, especially the people at the top, the presidency and most of the governors, if not all, okay, and the members of parliament and the senators, these guys are bought, sold, and rigged by the Western powers. That's why you see Sakaja owns, I don't know how, a house in Los Angeles, in South Africa, flies to where's Abu Dhabi every weekend, okay, does all this stuff while people are living in squalid living conditions in Nairobi. Nairobi is dirty, okay? That's why you have a president who is pro-GMOs, okay? A president who is on this nonsense about climate change. All the UN Western globalist agenda is being shoved down your throat by faces that look like you. Okay, why? How do these people get to power? It is not by us. We don't vote them on. These people have been. I don't know any president that have genuinely won elections besides Kibaki in 2022. I've said that 1,000 times. Okay, some of them don't even know why they're. I have to highlight this. Deep Nevius, you're too crazy. He say some of them don't even know why they're pawns. Absolutely, they don't. I mean, listen, these guys, if you want to know how immature and stupid they are, a whole politicians flaunts his or her wealth on X, on social media, okay, as if he's an 18-year-old rapper. Like you see them, what's this this morbidly obese lady from Abaguzi? Nothing against Abaguzi, I love you, all of you. But what's her name? I forgot her name. You know who I'm talking about. Who always buys a new car every month. He had a Range Rover, Mercedes, and she flaunts it. Okay, she's not the only one. I mean, there's I don't know who. Everyone they have wads of cash and. It's ridiculous. And they're wearing Gucci. I mean, these are the kind of people that are said to have been voted democratically to represent us. Do you honestly believe these people actually won these elections? I do not think. That's why you hear stories of vifaranga via ninio, vifaranga via computer during elections. These people are put there rigged in these positions because these colonialists, this globalist, okay, neocolonialists, they make sure they put the most retarded representatives to represent you. And you wonder why we have no we have no developments. Okay, I mean, listen, what's his name is running for president? This young man who was just caught yesterday. He was from Mumias. What's his name? Who smokes weed on Ninio? Who now has beef with Ninio? Karibu sana, Annie, I see you. So this is what I'm talking about. That's why sometimes I get angry when people say absolutely. I get mad when people say that, we should blame ourselves for the leaders that we choose. Blame ourselves for the leaders that we choose. We choose the wrong leaders. We do not choose the wrong leaders. They always rig the wrong leaders. And to make sure that they get the leaders of their choice, they always offer you a binary choice. Corrupt and the most corrupt. Choose between the two. That's why they give you, remember the last elections, they were telling you that, afadhali, what was the what was the narrative? Afadhali, what was it? The better choice, the smaller devil, or whatever the case is. Remember that? So you the smaller devil, or whatever the case is. It was a ridiculous narrative that were being presented to us. Like I say, they make it a binary choice. It's not an open, open elections. So the same thing we can argue about the US. That's why some people in US, they always argue that, okay, this whole Democrats versus Republican, it's not democratic because, you can't have two parties that just, dominate the system. But that's not the near that I want to drive. I want to stick to Kenya. But what I'm saying is this. What has happened to Katara, the president of Ivory Coast? Not only that, it started with who? Ibrahim Traore is giving Africa an idea, is encouraging Africans, showing Africans that, you know what? This is the next level of liberation. True liberation is when you have control of your own resources. You have control of your own security. You can secure your own borders by your own forces, and you have control of your resources. That way, you can actually start spending time by doing what? Taking care of the people, investing on the people, education, healthcare, okay? Food production. We don't have to import rice from China or USA or corn from USA and stuff. That's why you see the number one thing that Burkina Faso did. I use the Burkina Faso because he's the one who's getting a lot of headlines. The first thing that he did was to increase production because they wanted to be food secure. Kenya can be food secure, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades. If you didn't know, now you know. Okay? Kenya can be food secure. But again, we are taking loans from those very colonialists who are telling us what we need to grow. If you hear Ruto saying that we should grow avocado instead of growing more maize, that's not coming from Ruto. That is coming from the loan terms that he took from from the World Bank. They tell you what to grow. And what you grow is going to be exported back to them. They go process it. And after they process it, they mark the price and send it back to you, selling to you 3 times than what you could have paid for if you produced it in Kenya. See what I'm saying? Hiyo ndio mchezo unachezwa hapa. So what I'm trying to say is that the latest event that has happened in Ivory Coast is actually encouraging Africans, even Kenyans, to say, what if? Is it our turn? Is it our turn? Is it our turn? I'll show you a clip real quick so I can share with you this guy who I think it was funny, but I think if Ruto sees this, he's going to be a little bit perturbed by his thought process. Not only Ruto, but the whole political class must be shaking in their boots if they hear somebody like this. Let me play you this, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. If I can only, sorry, my computer is slow as it comes, but we shall work with it. We shall work with it. Here it is. All right.
It is not easy.
Let me try to expand it.
As before. It is not easy as you see people you are thinking. You, Ruto, we are coming for you. You, Raila, we are coming for you. You, Kalonzo, we are coming for you. You, Gachagua, we are coming for you.
All right, just give me a second.
All the entire ministers of the fucking shit regime.
Oh, Jesus.
We are coming for you. All the police, the DCIs, all the intelligence securities in Kenya, we are coming for you. I have given you Mr. Ruto, Mr. Raila, Mr. Kalonzo, with the all entire Moi student to resign the Kenyan politic as soon as possible before we landed in Kenya. We are not joking. We are tired with games that you people you are playing since the independent up to date. We now demand the space for all generation, for all Gen Zs, for all youths to occupy those spaces. Otherwise, what is happening in Ivory Coast, we are applying as soon as possible in Kenya. We are not going to joke with you, Ruto, with you, Kalonzo, with you, Gachagua, with you, Raila, and the entire team. We want Kenya to be free and free that ever been before. All the prison will set off. We are going to
All right, guys. Follow me on X. I see you guys are following on X. Please go to YouTube too and subscribe to my channel. My channel is called Kenyan Revolutionary. Sorry, I had a technical glitch. Like always, here we get attacked. It's usual. But as I was saying, I hope you saw that clip that I was showing you about. This is a Kenyan guy who was talking about what they would do since what have after the events that have happened in Ivory Coast. He's saying that, hey, listen, Ruto, Gachagua, Raila, all of you, Mukai Chonjo, you might be next. This is what's going on. And listen, guys, I've been saying this, and I don't want to beat more on this horse because I think this is a dead horse by this point. activities that are happening in Kenya, especially with the whole all activism, and there is the arrest by Natembeya, and arrest of Natembeya, and arrest of that Mumias, I forgot his name, that young guy, Salasia, thank you, Salasia. Possible arrest of Gachagua. I've always said that, and I will say it one more time for the umpteenth time, for those sitting at the back. This is a way of diverting attention, scattering. Mind yako yende huku na pale, usifikiri. They don't want you to think. Don't even dare think about going for Maandamano and removing Ruto. That is the whole idea. That's why you see our watu, they are very busy right now. They are not going to stop. They are not going to stop. They are very busy. Natembeya ameshikwa huku, kesi yake itafunguliwa hapo. They want to impeach him. So the whole Natembeya story will be inaendelea huku. So majority of people will be swayed and be paying attention to Natembeya. Then there's Selassie here, who's also analeta attention yake. Then there's Murara and Kasmuel, who will be propped up here, ambao atakuwa anapeleka watu hivi na huku. Then there will be also Gachagua, okay? If this Natembeya story of corruption and all this nonsense and the arrest, if it's not gaining any traction, if Selassie's case of being arrested and all this stuff, if it's not gaining any traction, here it is, they're throwing you another one with Martha Karua and Boniface Mwangi and Hanifa. Oh, they're going to Uganda with Suluhu. I told you why they're going for Suluhu. I told you why they're going for Suluhu. I told you why. And if all that is not working, now, listen. Listen. I told you why they're going for Suluhu. Just today, you saw Martha Karua take a picture with Bobby Wine. I told you about Uganda is also of their interest. Always remember, I told you a few months ago, Uganda discovered $12 trillion US dollars worth of gold deposits that are ready to be mined from Uganda. Okay? And again, the first thing that happened is, the US started blaming Uganda for not being supportive of, being tolerant of their LGBTQISTUVWXYZ community. Oh, Mara Museveni is violating human rights. We've known Museveni is a dictator. Why now? Today you saw Martha Karua pose with Bobby Wine. Oh, she's in Uganda. She's really busy. Bobby Wine, ameanza kuwaka moto sasa. Oh, now let's check on. That's why you see Muhozi. Muhozi is saying he will end up in his basement. Go check out Muhozi, the son of Museveni. He's saying, oh, at his atakuwa in his basement. Why do you think he's saying that? Why do you think attention is now on the Eastern African countries, this Uganda? Why are these Kenyan activists so they're out there taking their activism in Uganda and in Tanzania? Like I said, there's interest, not their interest, but their boss's interest, the West. I told you, this is how they start fanning the flames of a regime change. The first step is demonization. That's why you see, all of a sudden, Suluhu is this evil Idi Amin mama. Okay? Oh, she's detained Boniface Mwangi. Amefanya nini? Are we forgetting that Suluhu is the one who was meeting Ruto and Raila secretly in I don't know where, in Mombasa, there to panga hii mambo ya BBI? Are we forgetting? That time back then, she wasn't evil. She wasn't a mean mama. No. But like I said, why are they going for Suluhu? As soon as Tanzania announces that they're banning the use of US dollar in Tanzania, oh, our Western-backed commercial activists are very busy. Everyone is going to Arusha, Dar es Salaam. Oh, we forgot. Kampala. They are really busy, and they're going to be busy. They're going to be busy. On the local front, Ruto is playing this game of divide and conquer, and also diverting attention from issues at hand. The finance bill, because he knows that's a hot potato issue. Okay, that's a hot potato that you will usishike. You anajua inaweza kufanya Gen Z waende kwa street tonight. Okay, so now that we are approaching that time for a new finance bill to be passed, of course there'll be public participation. Should be. All right, I'm still in there, ladies and gentlemen. So instead of by trying to get people to divert people's attention by this, Ruto, along with Gachagua, are playing this game. Let's beef. That's the name of the game. Let's beef. Now, Gachagua has ramped up his rhetoric, telling you about everything and everything. He's even calling Ruto names. That's the whole point, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades. That is what these guys are doing, diverting attention. I told you, these people are not that smart. They cannot govern. They cannot govern. Oscar Sudi had something to say. Let's see Oscar Sudi to continue help fund this whole hii mchezo ping pong ya kujifanya ati watu wamekasirikiana, political circus that's going on. The whole point is can you just think about it? Who is talking about finance bill right now? Who is talking about maandamano? No one. They've managed to renew your attention from that with this whole news ya Gachagua and Martha Karua and Boniface Mwangi and Selasia Natembea. No one is talking about the real stuff. Okay? You see how wamecheza? Nobody's talking about that. The stuff that we should be worried about, that we actually ought to be talking about as people who care about these issues. Okay? Okay, let's see about from engineer mwenyewe. I hope you guys are familiar with engineer. Sorry guys, again. Hapa ni kungangana kidogo tu. Tuko na shida lakini tutaendelea. All right.
So hii kelele yote tunapiga sasa, watu wanaurumia tu kwa sababu ni marafiki yetu. Ingekuwa tu hawatujui, hiyo ujuaji mko nayo. Sasa mnajifanya tunataka kwenda kufanya kesi Tanzania. Si umemaliza kesi hapa, hii makopi yetu hapa. Tumsaidie watu wenye wajiwezo wamezama huko kwa mapriso. Wamezama huko, kuna mtu anafanyia kesi huko kotini hapa. So mjitolee mfanye free. Hii kibelembele hii muache tafadhali. I wish mngomna demokrasia yetu na yani uko na demokrasia, uko na freedom ya kila kitu, lakini msipeleke kwa njia yenyewe. Hiyo ujuaji yetu ya Kenya hii iishie tu hapa Kenya. Kama ningekuwa Mama Suluhu, lakini Mama Suluhu chonjo kabisa. Waikuja next time, make sure wanakula marago. Wajue hii ujuaji ya Kenya huwezi peleka kwa nchi nyingine. Ungeweka viboko hawa. Hizo. Sawa.
All right. I'm not the biggest Oscar Sudi fan, but I will admit that was funny. Ati ningekuwa Suluhu ati ningefanya wakule maragwe. But you know what? Listen. To some extent, he has a point. Whether you like it or not, he has a point. Listen, I'm not against Kenyan political activists or human rights activists who come from Kenya, going to Tanzania or Uganda to fight for, human rights for anybody who they think, is being held, their human rights is being violated, or whatever the case is. I'm not against that at all. My problem with this, okay? My problem is this, the manner in which it's done, okay? All right? The manner in which, if you were to take an example, the prime example is Boniface Mwangi, okay? He went to Uganda, and the way he was addressing those gentlemen he was talking to, I don't know if they were officials from police or government officials, I have no idea. But the yelling, the obnoxious nature in which he was addressing them, that is embarrassing. And he was even saying that, mimi ni mgeni wenu. And I mean, if you are mgeni, behave like one. Be respectful. Okay? Observe some decorum. Okay? But this guy was actually really, really disrespectful. If I was Suluhu, I would have taught you a lesson. They say he has disappeared. I actually don't believe it. In my opinion, this is a staged drama. Wamejipoteza huko ndio so that the Tanzanian officials or Suluhu looks bad. Like I told you, there's a reason why they're doing this. Go on my X, look at on my timeline. I've explained that. I made a video about this. Tanzania just announced they are dropping the US dollar. Guess what? Everyone is going to Tanzania. Now, like I said, look at Martha Karua. She went to Tanzania, tried to gain entry. They denied her. She took a flight back to Nairobi. As soon as she landed, she has a press conference as if the whole world is ending. After the press conference, a few hours later, she's on primetime news at 8 p.m., night NTV, spewing this whole nonsense, talking about her ordeal. After that, the next day, she's on Fix the Nation. I don't know what nation she's fixing. She should be on Destroy the Nation because she's actually destroying it. But anyway, okay, just a bunch of nothing, excitement about nothing. Okay, you got denied entry from Tanzania. Big freaking deal. Go back to your country, try to fight for people who actually need that help from influential people like you. Because Martha Karua, if I'm not wrong, when Ruto was brutalizing, shooting people down at Nyalenda, okay, remember that episode? Those guys were Azimio fans, were Azimio supporters. I didn't see you, Martha Karua, go to Kisumu and be like, hey, listen, I'm sorry for what happened. Oh my God, these people should be compensated and all this. No. Selective activism, because we know that money that you receive probably from USAID, okay, or Ford Foundation or whatever the case, they don't want you to go for the little man up there, wakid wao, watu ambao wanauliwa, au majenzi ambao wameuliwa. No, they want you to go for those heads of states around your area who are not playing by the playbook that the colonizers want you to stick by. Okay? So that is why some of us have a problem with this whole thing. That's why, to me, honestly, and I'll unashamedly stick with Suluhu on this issue. I might not agree with how Tundu Lissu was treated or why he was arrested, but on this Kenyan issue, I'm with Suluhu. I don't care how you think, I'm with Suluhu. You come to my country, okay, and you go to our courts acting the way this Boniface Mwangi was acting, making videos and treating our officials as if they're beneath you, or you're going to learn what it means to be humble and polite. Okay? You will learn. I will make you learn. If I was Suluhu, so I'm 100% with Suluhu on this issue. You can be a human rights activist and do it in a respectable way. I'm not expecting you to, bow down to Suluhu or whoever the case is, but there's ways to do it, okay? And then you come back here. Of course, you want attention. Unataka clout. Unataka the what do you call it? The news to capture this story, and you spend an hour speaking about nothing. Okay, so Suluhu, do what you need to do. Some of these folks need to learn. We know who's behind them. Teach them a lesson. Let them pay for this. Let me tell you something. For those of you who are still to think Suluhu is that evil, she might be. I can care less. But on this issue, I agree with her. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, and comrades. True human rights activists, most of them, if they have pulled something like that, okay, on a country that's really is under dictatorship, they would have not made it back to Kenya. And that those footages that were played on NTV and all the neo media would have not made it on the news. One can disappear and nobody would have heard about them to this day. So I'm saying there's ways to do things. You have to. Then they're trying to pull off this, oh, you know, we have this jumuiya. You can no. Just because there's a EAC treaty that is signed of a cooperation between each member states does not mean that the member states lose their sovereign power. Tanzania has the right to even tell Ruto, do not come to our country, regardless of whether Jumuiya thing EAC treaty was signed or not. That's the point I'm making. So miss me with this Simua, Amin, Mama, whatever the case is. Actually, Idi Amin was a good leader. Go do your real research. I know. Yes, I'll repeat it again in slow motion. Amin Dada was actually a pan-Africanist. More pan-Africanist than Ruto, than Martha Karua, than Raila, than Uhuru, than any Kenyan president that we ever had. Amin Dada was a true pan-Africanist. Go do your research. Anyway, let me not get there. Let me calm down. But that's what I mean. So let's not play these games. We need to actually vet these people. But ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, it's been 52 minutes. I'll keep it here. Please do me a favor. If this is your first time on this channel, talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. My name is Kenya Revolutionary. Please follow me on X. Follow, and I'll follow you back. Okay. Then go to YouTube. Type the name right there. Type the name. Mfuate kwa YouTube. Subscribe, share, like, comment. Do all that good stuff. And put that notification on so every time I come in, you can always find me here. I'm Namnegani. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, especially you guys on X. You really showed up. Thank you so much. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time as we keep on. Occupy State House 2025. Ruto, your days are numbered. Kuna kudeta inakuja. It might be a peaceful people's revolution, or if Kariri and his boys or whoever is up there decides, hey, listen, we are better off without you. Though I'm not excited because I don't think, from what I've seen, I don't know much about majority of the members of the military, so I can't even say, but I haven't seen anybody that really excites me as far as being a Pan-Africanist who's a people person. Because even the members of military, we had the news years ago under Kibaki where some of them were involved in dodgy deals in Somalia. So it's not a guarantee that we can have a good leader. Like they always say, if we have a military coup d'etat, you can either get a Museveni or we can have a Ibrahim Traore. Now, having an Ibrahim Traore, it's really hard, but it's possible because now the general ethos among Pan-Africanist movement that is sweeping across Africa, starting from the Sahel nations. Now, probably that Ivory Coast have caught that fever. We are waiting for that wave to reach the east. Perhaps Kenya will be the first country in Eastern Africa to do an Ibrahim Traore, or maybe a People's Popular Revolution. We'll wait and see. So, as things continue and all this political drama that are orchestrated by NIS, Ruto, and Gachagua, with all this fake arrest and all this tear gas, people protesting, we're not buying into that. Real Kenyan revolutionary, real people who care about the change are focused and understand the problem is not this individual. It's not Ruto, Gachagua, whatever. They are all the problem. So we have to break down and do away with the system that produce the Rutos of this world, the Uhurus of this world, the Railas of this world, the Gachaguas of this world, the Musalia Mudavadi of this world, the Papa Roma of this world, the Wamalo of this world, the Karua of this world, the Boniface Mwangi of this world, the Hanifas of this world. We have to break that system. And what I advocate for is a peaceful, popular, revolutionary people to go to the streets like we did last June 25th, go to State House, and we tell Ruto, step down, not right now, but right now. And after that, anapelekwa kamiti, yeye, Gachagua, Raila, Uhuru, and we shall open the books and see nani aliiba nini na nani aliiba nini, moja kwa moja. Pesa ile mlichukua za SGR, Eurobonds, nini, turudishe. Alafu hizo deni mtaenda kulipia huko pale mlichukua. Kama mlichukua Bank of China, mwende mkamalizane na Wachina. Hapa tutawanyonga, okay? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the basically idea of what I'm talking about. But I'm so excited by this idea, this next wave, revolutionary wave that's happening in Africa, starting from the Sahel nation, making its way slowly but surely in the East. Perhaps it has to go through the Central Africa before we get to Kenya, but we are waiting eagerly. In fact, there are people who are talking about Tinubu should be next. Okay, so Nigeria and Kenya are, tunashindana. Should Tinubu be next or Ruto to be next? We shall say, stay tuned. Wake up everyone in your go to my YouTube channel and subscribe and put notification on so every time I come in you can always find me, and I always drop the link. So if you want to come in and say hello or just give your view, I will put it on. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. My name is Kenyan Revolutionary. I have to leave it here. Peace and blessings. I'll see you next time. Peace. I'm out.